got to take those dollars, those numbers any day, right?
Oh,
How
for
do you
sure.
leverage that with council?
Yeah, you know what? We don't even need to. Our city council is sees the results daily on the streets, especially in our downtown core, and are all in.
Yeah. Any and maybe this is for the two police chiefs. Any can you talk about the attitude of the citizens that you're coming in contact with that Cahoots is responding to, or Star is responding to, in terms of, how are they feeling when they see it's a different type of response as opposed to armed police officers showing up?
Yeah, it's critical. I can't, we were talking about metrics earlier, and I almost interrupted you, Mayor. But then I'm I'm pretty smart these days. I don't interrupt mayors very often. But one of the metrics that we haven't talked about, which is really really hard to quantify, but I believe is profoundly important, is the number of calls that Cahoots response prevents. When you think about somebody being in crisis on the street corner, half clothed, screaming at no one, and that phone call comes in, if that person is left unattended or unresponded to, there's a high likelihood that escalates to the point where it does become a police response. So I see Cahoots not only as a differential response for some of the calls that we would go to, but I see them as an enormous crime or call prevention tool for our police department. And that's really hard to quantify. Crime prevention is always a hard metric to quantify anyway, but it's really, really important. And one of the cornerstones of how they respond differently is number one, they're not seen as an extension of the police department. They're a completely separate entity. They're not seen as anything to do with enforcement. When they arrive on scene, it doesn't scream somebody's going to jail. And that's the problem when you arrive on scene in a uniform, in a car, and a gun and a badge, is the assumption is that somebody's in trouble, somebody's going to jail, somebody's going to get citation. And so when you have somebody showing up in one of these well-branded vans, in jeans and a Cahoots t-shirt, and just kind of a come-as-you-are type of mentality, it has a tendency to immediately de-escalate things and immediately send a sense of calm over most of these people that are in crisis. And, like I said earlier, when you want to send behavioral health first responders to behavioral health issues and not send a uniform. And so for us, I think it's hugely important that they are the ones responding, the way they respond, the way they interact with people. And quite honestly, and I think Tim would tell you, having his time worked on the van, they develop rapport with these people. Just like in law enforcement, we have frequent flyers. We have recidivism, and we see the same names and faces often. I think Cahoots as well will respond to the same individuals, and they build a rapport with these people that is there's just no chance somebody in uniform is going to be able to build that depth of a relationship with somebody that's in crisis.
Yeah. Chief, Payson, any thoughts on that?
I will just echo some of those same sentiments. The uniform in and of itself sometimes can turn a low level contact into a high level contact, and so having the appropriate behavioral health response really helps us keep that where it needs to be, and we see better outcomes. I can tell you from those contacts on the street, it's been overwhelmingly positive from the people that are in need to get that support. And then one of those aha moments for me as we were progressing through initiating our pilot and working towards alternative response is the benefits to people that are directly impacted, but not necessarily the ones in crisis. Meaning a mother of an individual who every time her son would leave the home, she has to worry about his condition and whether or not he's going to come home at night. And we were able to work with parents of individuals that have children that are dealing with mental health challenges or substance abuse challenges, and really bring that perspective into the response. And Janet and the mothers really helped shape our response, and we see the positive aspects of that as well. But I think it's important that it's not just the individual on the street that's in crisis. Our community is impacted by that, whether it's a parent, a business owner, a resident. Getting the appropriate response for the appropriate need is critical.
I appreciate that, Chief. I got one last question for the two chiefs